dad just let me.
Great, Mike, but I've got a big project due and I'm really busy right now.
Do you want some help?
I don't think you can help me with this. I've got to finish a report on Mexico.
That should be easy. I mean, you were just there with Tio Enrique, Tia Gabi, and Anna.
Yeah, you think so, but there's so much to write about. I mean, I'm not even halfway done, so I don't think you can help me with this unless... Yes! You can help!
What? How?
You could shoot my report. It'll be so much better than writing it.
Awesome! I'm ready to go.
Are you ready? Okay. The history of Mexico. Well, the land we know today as Mexico goes way back to the end of the Ice Age, about 20,000 years ago, when almost all of North America was covered in ice and snow. Some of the countries separated by oceans today were connected back then by frozen strips of land and ice. People from as far away as Siberia and Alaska actually walked all the way to Mexico. Archaeologists think they may have been following herds of the animals they hunted for food. Later on, people settled across the land where they wanted to stay and live. These settlers became the first people of Mexico and are called Mexico's indigenous people today.
Wait, what does indigenous mean?
Indigenous people are the native people of a country, like the Native Americans in the United States. Mexico's first indigenous people were the Olmec. They are considered the mother culture. The Olmec settled in the areas that are now Veracruz and Tabasco.
Tabasco? Isn't that where they make the hot sauce?
No, but Tabasco is probably just as hot as the sauce. It's right here, and Veracruz is there. I went there when I was in Mexico. They carved larger-than-life sculptures of humans and animals showing great power. I saw these giant stone heads the Olmec carved. They're really big and mysterious because no one knows how they were made. Would you believe some of the gigantic heads of the Olmec are as heavy as 25 cars stacked together? And somehow the Olmec moved the heads over hills and across rivers. Tio Enrique told me that Olmec ideas were found in other Mexican cultures too.
Like the famous Mayan culture. The Maya lived on the Yucatan Peninsula where they built magnificent pyramids as religious temples and sometimes as places to bury their leaders. The Maya studied the orbit of the planets and the movement of the stars to make a 365-day calendar, almost like the one we use today. They had a number system based on 20 that they came up with by counting all their fingers and toes. They wrote with picture symbols called hieroglyphics that archaeologists say are the most advanced hieroglyphics found in Mexico. Only leaders and the very wealthy knew how to read and write the hieroglyphics. They were used to record, and sometimes not very truthfully record, the power of a ruler, their wars and victories, and other important events.
And here's a sweet fact for you. The Mayans used chocolate as their money.
Chocolate? You're kidding me.
Okay, not exactly chocolate. They used the seeds of the cacao tree for money, and those seeds are what chocolate is made from. The cacao tree is native to the area, and its seeds were really, really valuable to the Mayans. They would trade a certain number of seeds to get other things they needed. Cacao seeds were valuable to other Mexican cultures too, including the Aztec.
Hey, I know about the Aztec. Didn't they live around here?
Yep, right here where Mexico City is today. Their city was called Tenochtitlan.
Tenochtitlan.
It means place of the cactus, and it was built in the center of a lake.
Why would they build a city there?
Well, there was a legend that said the Aztecs should settle down in a place where they saw an eagle sitting on a cactus eating a serpent. And the legend says that one day the Aztecs saw exactly that, and they started building their city right then and there. And today, the symbol of the eagle on the cactus eating a serpent is the national emblem of Mexico and is proudly displayed on the Mexican flag. The Aztec were fierce warriors who wanted to rule the land. They had a very advanced culture. They built pyramid temples and made beautiful art, pottery, and jewelry. The Aztec were traders who went all over Mexico, bringing back the best ideas they found to add to their own culture. When it came to developing the area where they had settled, the Aztec were very resourceful. Since the area was surrounded by water, the Aztec built water highways, or canals. The canals of Xochimilco were lined with raised platforms planted with crops for food. These platforms are called chinampas, and they look like they are floating. The mud from the lakes was mixed with soil to make it more fertile for the plants. And because these gardens were surrounded by canals, the crops always had enough water. Today, the canals and gardens still exist, and you can travel on them in colorful boats called trajineras. And wait till you see this. The Aztec made their own hieroglyphics, and they were really easy to understand. Traveling is shown as footprints. To show a person was talking, they drew a scroll coming out of their mouth. And to show a person singing, they drew a scroll decorated with flowers. The most famous Aztec of all was Moctezuma II. He was king of the Aztec when the Spanish conquistadors came to Mexico.
Conquista. What?
Conquistador. Here, I'll show you. Con, quis, ta, dor. It means conqueror. In the 1400s, while the Aztec Empire was thriving in Mexico, European explorers were sailing all over the world, searching for wealth, fame, and a chance to spread their religion. With the success of Christopher Columbus's discoveries, Spain wanted to send even more explorers to the New World.
Hey, I know. They were the conquistadors.
Right! They were determined to capture the land for Spain. The conquistador who battled Moctezuma II and the rest of the Aztec to gain control of Mexico was Hernán Cortés.
Cortés and his men landed in Veracruz in 1519 and marched to Tenochtitlan. On the way, they met many other natives who were enemies of the Aztec. Cortés made friends with as many of these people as he could and invited them to come along on his journey. Montezuma heard that a mysterious stranger was on his way to Tenochtitlan and thought it might be the return of the ancient god Quetzalcoatl, who Aztec legend said would one day return to rule the empire. You see, the Aztec had never seen light-skinned, light-haired people before. They hadn't seen beards or armor, or horses either. So when the conquistadors appeared on horseback, looking the way they did, wearing armor, they thought the man and the horse together was one beast. This really frightened them and made them think the conquistadors might be gods.
Hold on. The conquistadors looked like a man horse?
Well, they wouldn't look like that to us today, but to people who had never seen horses before, they didn't know what the man on top of the horse was.
Montezuma was so worried about these stories he heard about these man-beasts, he sent a messenger to Cortés carrying gold and gifts, hoping Cortés would take it all and go away. When Cortés saw the gold, he became more determined than ever to conquer the Aztec and take all their riches. Cortés didn't have nearly as many soldiers as the Aztec, but when he included the enemies of the Aztec who were with him, he had a very strong army. Cortés and his new army attacked and killed Montezuma and thousands of Aztec. And after fighting other battles all around the country, the conquistadors claimed Mexico for Spain and named it New Spain.
Now, lots of explorers back in Europe started hearing stories about gold and other riches back in New Spain and wanted some for themselves. One explorer who decided to go for the gold was Francisco Vázquez de Coronado. In 1540, he sailed to the New World. He didn't find the gold he was looking for, but he did find and claim what would become the southwest part of the United States. And here's a good one to know. The land Coronado claimed for Spain now makes up parts of 8 of the United States: California, New Mexico, Arizona, Wyoming, Nevada, Texas, Oklahoma, and Kansas.
Spanish rule changed Mexican culture and society forever. For example, Spain sent the first horses and longhorn cattle to Mexico. Cattle ranches sprang up, and so did the first cowboys, or charros, as they are called in Mexico. There were many crops growing that the Spanish had never seen before, so they built farms to grow corn, peanuts, tomatoes, sunflowers, and other things to send back to Spain. But in order to grow the crops, the conquistadors enslaved the indigenous people of Mexico and forced them to work on these large farms called ranchos or haciendas. They lived in terrible conditions, worked very hard, and often did not get enough food to eat. The conquistadors also brought with them many new diseases, like smallpox and tuberculosis, that killed the native people. During the first 150 years of conquistador rule, 8 out of every 10 indigenous people died.
Wow, that's horrible. Were all the people that came to Mexico as cruel as the conquistadors?
Not at all. Spain also sent Catholic missionaries, groups of people who visit other lands to teach their religion. Tia Gabby told me that Spain wanted to do more than just claim lands in the New World.
The conquistadors were blessed by the church if they promised to convert the native people to the Catholic religion. This was really important to Spain because it was a very religious country. So for over 300 years, they sent Catholic missionaries to New Spain. Remember those pyramid temples the Maya and the Aztec built? Well, the Spanish tore a lot of them down and used the stones to build Catholic churches. In addition to building churches, the missionaries also set up schools and created military forts. And can you believe this? The natives fooled the Spanish and saved the Great Pyramid of Tempanampa by covering it with dirt so it looked like a big hill. The Spanish built their church right there on the highest point around. It was years before they realized they actually built on top of a pyramid.
I think it's so sad that a country with all this history and culture was enslaved by people from another country for more than 300 years. Get this, it was a Catholic priest who started Mexico's fight for independence from Spain. Can you believe it? His name was Father Miguel Hidalgo y Costilla. Everyone called him Father Hidalgo. He didn't like the way people were being treated. He got so angry about it that he demanded Spain put an end to the slavery. When Spain didn't listen, Father Hidalgo started planning a way to overthrow the government. At midnight on September 15, 1810,